课，佛学英文这一堂课。You are most welcome to come back to the Buddhist English class. Today we will continue the story of the young monk Landa and the elder monk Sangara. Let's read a few paragraphs and then we will start explaining the contents to you. Repeat after me. So pondered Landa as he stood fanning the elder. Consumed by his reflections, he swung his palm-leaf fan and brought it down on the head of the elder. Sangara considered within himself, why has Landa struck me on the head? Immediately becoming aware of every thought which had passed through the mind of his attendant, he said to him, Landa, you did not succeed in hitting the woman, but what has an old teacher done to deserve a beating? The young monk thought to himself, I am in disgrace. The elder knows the foolish thoughts which have passed through my mind. The teacher told Landa that if he sought forgiveness, he should come and sit before him. Trembling, Landa sat down, his eyes cast upon the floor he had so proudly swept a short time before. Sangara spoke quietly and patiently. Landa, do you see that you have made no effort to mindfully watch your thoughts? And do you see how needlessly you have suffered because of your mind's unwatched wanderings? Your gift was not freely given because you demanded that it be received in a specific way. When your minds were unfulfilled, you suffer resentment. The resentment was allowed to grow and watch until it had made you completely unmindful. As you stood fanning me, you negligently become absorbed in wandering thoughts which had made nothing to do with the present moment. Repeat. So pondered Landa as he stood fanning the elder. Consumed by his reflections, he swung his palm-leaf fan and brought it down on the head of the elder. Sangara considered within himself, why has Landa struck me on the head? Immediately becoming aware of every thought which had passed through the mind of his attendant, he said to him, Landa, you did not succeed in hitting the woman, but what has an old teacher done to deserve a beating? The young monk thought to himself, I am in disgrace. The elder knows the foolish thoughts which have passed through my mind. The teacher told Landa that if he sought forgiveness, he should come and sit before him. Trembling, Landa sat down, his eyes cast upon the floor he had so proudly swept a short time before, Sangara spoke quietly and patiently. Nanda, do you see that you have made no effort to mindfully watch your thoughts? And do you see now how endlessly you have suffered because of your mind's unwatched wanderings? Your gift was not freely given because you demanded that it be received in a specific way. When your mind well unfulfilled, you suffered resentment. The resentment was allowed to grow unwatched until it had made you completely unmindful. As you stood fanning me, you negligently became absorbed in wandering thoughts which had nothing to do with the present moment. In our last class, we have illustrated the story of the young monk Nanda. The young monk Nanda was so anxious to become enlightened that he would like to make great merit by presenting his most valuable robe to the elder monk. He went to the place of the elder monk Sankara. One day, when Sankara went out to do something, the young monk Nanda came to the elder monk Sankara's quarters. He cleaned the floor and prepared the water for drinking and washing. And he was so happy that he had done the best service to the elder monk Sankara. He believed that he would make great merit by giving his best gift to the elder monk Sankara. When elder monk Sankara returned to the monastery, the young monk Nanda was so happy, he rushed to the road and guided the elder monk Sankara to his quarters and asked him to sit down and prepare the drink water for the elder monk. He also bathed the elder monk's feet. He repeatedly requested to present his robe to the elder monk Nanda. However, the elder monk Sankara was aware of every thought which had passed through the mind of the young monk Nanda. He understood that Nanda was not mindful, and Nanda was in a state of craving. The elder monk Sankara believed that it was a great opportunity to teach Nanda. Therefore, Sankara told Nanda that he had already a complete set of ropes, and he didn't need any new ropes. He instructed Landa to give the rope to other needy monk. However, Landa asked Sangara to accept the gift again and again. In a very polite way, Sangara refused to receive the gift. He instructed Nanda to present the gift to other monk. In this way, the young monk Nanda was unhappy. He thought to himself, if the elder monk Sangara wouldn't accept my gift, why do I remain a monk? I would like to become a householder once again. Resentment grew in the mind of Landa. Although he stood there fanning the elder monk Sangara with a palm leaf fan, his mind wandered away. He didn't know what he was doing. Then he started daydreaming. He thought to himself, if I become a householder again, what shall I earn my own living? I will sell my rope and buy a she-goat. When the she-goat gives birth to the young goat, I will sell the young goat. When I have accumulated a profit, I will take a wife. My wife will bear me a son. And then I will put my son in a cart. I will carry my son and my wife back to my elder teacher, Sangara, and pay my best respects to this enlightened teacher. So he continued his daydreaming. Landa thought within himself, when I bring my son and my wife on the journey back to my teacher's place, I will tell my wife, bring me my son. I want to carry my son by myself. But my wife refuses to do so. She replies, why should you carry the son? You just push the cart. My wife takes the son in her arms. However, because of lacking of necessary strength, my wife cannot bear the son in her arms. She let down my son, and then my son fall in the road. in the track of the wheels. Then the cart will run over my son. Then I was so unhappy that I say to my wife, "You have ruined my life. My son is the most valuable thing I have. I love my son so much. He's dear to me. How can you kill him in this way?" So I will bring down my stick on the head of my wife in order to punish my wife. The young monk, Lander, was making daydream in this way. And so he was unmindful. Then a very interesting and funny things happen. Let's see what is the outcome of the daydreaming. When Lander was unmindful. So pondered Lander as he stood fanning the elder. Ponder means thinking. The young monk Lander was deep in thinking and in making daydream. So pondered Lander as he stood fanning the elder. He stood by side of the elder monk Sankara, fanning the elder monk. However, Lander's mind was away. He was making daydream. He was not at the present moment of fanning the elder monk. Consumed by his reflections, he swung his palm leaf fan and brought it down on the head of the elder. This is the funny thing. Consumed by his reflections. Reflections means recollection or thinking. Because Lander was unmindful, fanning the elder monk Sankara. Consume means burning. His mind was burnt with his reflections that he wanted to become a householder again and make a profit and get married, consumed with his reflections. He was not peaceful. He was not quiet. His mind was wandering away. His mind was burning with fire of reflections. He swung his palm leaf fan. Swung means to wave in big movement, to wave the fan in big movement. Palm leaf fan. Palm is the tall tree in tropical climate. The people in tropical area usually use the palm leaf as a fan to fan the wind, because Landa was absorbed in his reflections. He was not at the moment. He was not mindful. He swung his palm leaf fan and brought it down on the head of the elder. Brought the palm leaf fan on the head of the elder monk Sankara. The young monk Nanda was not mindful. He was not at the present moment. He was consumed by his reflections. He swung the palm leaf fan and brought it down on the head of the elder monk Sankara. You may notice what happened now. The young monk Nanda brought the palm leaf fan on the head of the elder monk Sankara and struck the elder monk's head. Sankara considered within himself, why has Nanda struck me on the head? The elder monk Sankara considered within himself. He didn't speak out. He didn't ask Nanda, why did Nanda strike him on the head? Sankara just thought within himself, why has Nanda struck me on the head? Nanda was my disciple. He was a young monk. He came to see me. He wanted to present his most valuable robe to me. And he stood by my side, fanning my head, my body, in order to cool me down. But why has him struck me on the head? Why did he strike my head? Why did he beat my head? What is the reason? I cannot understand. Immediately becoming aware of every thought which had passed through the mind of his attendant, he said to him, Nanda, you didn't succeed in hitting the woman, but what has an old man, old teacher done to deserve a beating? The elder monk Sankara was an experienced practitioner of meditation. He was mindful of himself all the time. So he could easily find out where was Nanda's mind. Immediately means at once, within a very short time. Sankara became aware of every thought which had passed through the mind of his attendant, Nanda. Sankara was a practitioner of meditation. His mind was always mindful. So in a very short time, he became aware of all the thoughts which had passed through the mind of his attendant. Although it was only a very short time, but because Nanda was not mindful, so many thoughts already had passed through his mind. Sangara was aware of it. Sangara understood. So many thoughts have already passed through the mind of his attendant. Attendant means a servant to attend a teacher, or to attend a boss, or to attend a master. Attendant means a person who attends to the care of his superior. He said to him, Sangara said to Nanda, after Sangara understood what happened to Nanda, he understood that Nanda had resentment in his mind, and Nanda wanted to become a householder, and so on. So Sangara decided to take this golden opportunity to teach Nanda the importance of mindfulness. Sangara said to Nanda, Nanda, you did not succeed in hitting the woman. As the story went on, Nanda met daydreaming that he wanted to become a householder. He wanted to sell his robe and buy a she-goat. The she-goat would bring forth young. Nanda would sell the young goat and make a profit. Nanda would use the money to take a wife. The wife would give birth to a son. Nanda would use a cart to carry the son, and he would bring his wife and his son back to the place of his enlightened teacher in order to pay respects to the elder monk. But the accident happened because his wife didn't follow his order to give him bring his son. The wife wanted to bring the son by herself, but lacking of strength, the wife could not bring the son in her arms. The son would fall down and then would be killed by the wheel. And then Nanda would be so unhappy. He would strike his wife with his stick. But unfortunately, he was daydreaming. So he just brought down the palm leaf fan on the head of the Sangara. Therefore, Nanda didn't beat the woman. Instead, Nanda beat his elder teacher, Sangara. And Sangara told him, Nanda, you didn't hit the woman, but what has an old teacher done to deserve a beating? Sangara told Nanda, you don't succeed in hitting the woman, but I am an old monk. I have nothing to do with that woman. I have nothing to do with you. I'm your teacher. What has an old teacher done to deserve a beating? Why did you beat my head with the palm leaf fan? What's wrong with me? Did I do anything wrong so that you beat me? The young monk thought to himself, I am in disgrace. The elder knows the foolish thoughts which have passed through my mind. After Sangara told the young monk Nanda, Nanda thought within himself, I am in disgrace. I am in shame. I was not mindful. Therefore, I struck my master's head. It is a shame to me. I am in disgrace. The elder monk knows every thought which had passed through my mind. How disgraceful I am. I am so unmindful that I even struck my teacher's head. The teacher told Nanda that if he sought forgiveness, he should come and sit before him. The teacher was so kind and gentle. Therefore, he told Nanda, if he sought forgiveness, if Nanda wanted to have forgiveness from the teacher told him that he should sit down before the teacher. Trembling, Nanda sat down. His eyes cast upon the floor. He had so proudly swept a short time ago. Because the young monk Nanda was in disgrace. He wanted to seek forgiveness from the elder monk, trembling. Trembling is unsteady. His body was trembling because he was afraid that the teacher would punish him. So trembling, Nanda sat down. He sat down trembling. His body, his two hands, his 2 feet was trembling so much. He sat down. He was not peaceful as before. His eyes cast upon the floor, he had so proudly swept a short time before. At that time, Nanda was not proud as before, and he could not be peaceful as before. He dared not look at the teacher's eyes as before. Therefore, he cast his eyes upon the floor, which he had so proudly swept a short time before the accident happened. When the elder monk Sangara was away, Nanda so proudly swept the floor in order to make Sangara happy and to present his gift in the hope to make a great marriage in order to attain enlightenment in a very short time. But right now, because he was in disgrace, because he was unmindful, and the master noticed his unmindfulness, Sangara spoke quietly and patiently. Nanda, do you see that you have made no effort to mindfully watch your thoughts? And do you see now how needlessly you have suffered because of your mind's and watch wanderings? As a teacher, Sangara was so gentle and so kind. When he understood that Nanda repented, Nanda sat before him, trembling, with his eyes cast upon the floor. So Sangara spoke very quietly and patiently. His voice is very peaceful, and he was patient. He spoke to Nanda with great patience. He told Nanda, Nanda, do you see that you have made no effort to mindfully watch your thoughts? He asked Nanda in a very gentle voice, friendly voice, very patient voice, Nanda, have you noticed that you have made no effort to mindfully watch your thoughts? You didn't watch your thoughts. You didn't make any effort in watching your thoughts. And do you see how needlessly you have suffered because of your mind's unwatched wanderings? The teacher asked Nanda, do you see how needlessly you have suffered? Actually, Nanda didn't need to suffer the unmindfulness, but just because of his making no effort to watch his thought. So Nanda needlessly suffered from the unmindfulness. Nanda didn't pay any attention to his wandering thoughts. Nanda's mind's unwatched wanderings made him suffer a lot. Unwatched wanderings means unobserved, not under the inspection, not under the observation. So Nanda's minds wander away so easily. His mind was always wandering to other objects. And because of his unwatched wanderings, he suffered a lot. Your gift was not freely given because you demanded that it be received in a specific way. Sanghara told Nanda, your gift was not received freely. Just because that you demanded your gift should be received in a specific way. As we notice, Nanda wanted to present his gift to Sanghara in the way to make a great merit. So Sanghara told him, I didn't receive your gift because I noticed that you have craving in your mind when you want to present the gift to me. In a specific way means in a particular way. Usually, when we present a gift to other people, we just give the people the gift we want to give him. We don't ask any return. We don't hope that other people should give us any gift. We ask for nothing. We just want to make our offerings in order to express our appreciation or to express our thanks to other people. Sanghara told Nanda, your gift was not freely given. Was not freely given, that means you have some desire in your mind when you want to give your gift. It is not a correct way to offer the gift to other people. Your gift was not freely given because you demanded that it be received in a specific way. You ask for something back when you want to present your gift to me. Your gift is not free. Your gift is to be presented just because of the returning you want. When your demands were unfulfilled, you suffer resentment. Your demands means your requests. Nanda requested again and again that Sanghara should accept his gift. But Sanghara refused politely again and again. Sanghara told Nanda that he had already a complete set of robes. He didn't need any new robes. Sanghara instructed Nanda to offer the gift to other needy monk. A monk should live in a simple way. A monk shouldn't have more money and more clothes than he needs. So Nanda's demands were not fulfilled because Sankara didn't fulfill Nanda's demands by accepting the goods. Sankara told Nanda again and again to give his robe to other needy monks. He didn't accept the robe. Therefore, Sankara told Nanda, when your demands were unfulfilled, unfulfilled means unrealized, because your demands were turned down by me. I didn't accept your gift. I always ask you to give this robe to other needy monks. I didn't accept your request. Therefore, you suffered resentment. You arouse resentment in your mind. Sankara told Nanda, you are not happy with me. You are not satisfied with my attitude to refuse accepting your gift. You suffer resentment. Resentment means hatred. When your demands were unfulfilled, you suffer resentment. This sentence is common to all of us. If we demand something and our demand is not fulfilled, we will arise hatred in our mind. Especially when we wish to give somebody the best gift we have, and yet somebody will not accept it, then our mind will become upset. We will become unhappy with the situation. We will become unsatisfied with the attitude of the other people, because we believe that we are so kind, that we are so good, that we want to show our appreciation, our thanks to other people. Therefore, we wanted to offer our gift to other people. We do in this way, and we expect other people would show appreciation and thanks to us. However, when our demands are turned down, we will feel unhappy because our demands were not fulfilled. The resentment was allowed to grow and watch until it had made you completely unmindful. Sankara told Nanda, your demands were not fulfilled. Therefore, you arouse resentment in your mind because you were consumed with resentment. Your minds were wandering away. The resentment was allowed to grow and watch. You are not mindful. You allowed your resentment to increase more and more. The resentment was allowed to grow and watch. You didn't observe that you have the resentment until the resentment had made you completely unmindful. You are full of hatred. You are full of resentment. You totally lost your mindfulness. As you stood fanning me, you negligently became absorbed in wandering thoughts which had nothing to do with the present moment. Because you aroused resentment in your mind, you didn't observe your resentment. Therefore, your resentment increased so much. As you stood fanning me, you uncarefully became absorbed in wandering thoughts. You lost your mind, which had nothing to do with the present moment that you are fanning me. Therefore, you struck me. In this way, you suffer a lot from the unmindfulness. Thank you for joining us. Thank you again.